Welcome back to the Pistons Shack YouTube channel. On today's episode, we'll be reacting to an unnamed Pistons executive's comments on the team's off-season just gone, and there's some really interesting comments on a couple of the Pistons' young stars, so let's get to it. Earlier today, Keith Smith of Spotrac, Keith Smith of the Front Office Show, he also covers the Celtics, I believe, at Keith Smith NBA, wrote an article. It was pretty much a dump of all his information, quotes, and that type of stuff from conversations he had at Summer League. I'm pretty sure there was notes on all 30 teams. There's some really interesting comments here. He spoke to a lot of executives. Obviously, Keith's the salary cap guru. He's kind of someone who probably should be in a front office, but he's in the content and reporting space and really knows the salary cap just as good as anyone apart from maybe Bobby Marks of ESPN. So Keith spoke to a lot of front office executives as this article shows, and we're going to get to what he had here on the Pistons because there was 3 different kind of quotes talking about different topics with the team that I want to get into here. So let's get to the first one. As you can see here on the right, when talking about the Pistons roster movement this offseason that we're currently still in and has just been happening the past few weeks, the front office executive said, "It's no secret we had to pivot right, but we feel really good about what we were able to do. Caris LeVert is going to be huge for us because he can score and he can be a primary playmaker too. Duncan's Robinson's shooting is something we had to have. We think we've got guys who can set him up even more than he was in Miami the last couple of years." So first thing here, obviously it's no secret we had to pivot. That quote's in reference to the Malik Beasley situation. Don't really need to go into that a whole lot more, but obviously that came out on the eve of free agency 24 hours before players could be signed. So that's what that is. The Caris LeVert thing, no surprise there. Trajan spoke about it, but I do think Caris is, I think honestly, he's going to surprise a lot of people. The more research I've done since they signed him, I don't think there's that much of a drop-off between him and Dennis Schroeder. In terms of what they can bring, I think Schroeder is a better, pure, playmaker maybe. Caris is a lot more, shot first, but I think Caris is an upgrade defensively from Dennis. He's a lot bigger, and I think, in terms of shooting, they're very similar. But there is differences, but I think Caris is going to be a big pickup, and he's going to help Cade and Ivy on the nights where they're getting doubled and trapped and all that kind of stuff, blitzed. So I think he'll be a good release valve. But the key part here was Duncan Robinson. I love how he says we think we've got guys who can set him up even more than when he was in Miami the last couple of years. So I was doing some thinking, and obviously this is referencing the past 2 years. So the main two to 3 playmakers that have been on the Heat's roster is obviously Jimmy Butler before he was traded, Bam Adebayo, who Duncan had really good chemistry with, and then Tyler Hero, who's definitely more of a shot-first guy, but has improved as a playmaker. The Pistons, I think it's fair to say, Cade, as much as Jimmy's the more established player, had much more postseason success and all that, I think it's fair to say Cade is a better playmaker than him. Just in terms of the reads he can make out of the pick and roll, he's just more consistent. That's what Cade does. So he's better than the best player that Duncan played with. And then I think Bam's a better playmaker than Jimmy, but Bam is definitely a better playmaker than Jalen Duren right now. But I think JD has a similar type of game with playmaking, a lot of handoff actions he can run with Duncan, and that's what Duncan did with Bam. So I think there's some really exciting stuff, which I've spoken about a few times now, between Duncan and Duren, the chemistry they could forge. And then Jaden Ivey, they've also got, I think he's definitely around the same as Tyler Hero in terms of playmaking, potentially better, potentially worse on some nights. But I think Cade overall is going to open up a heap for Duncan. And then, yeah, I think Duncan as well. I think he's going to surprise fans with some of the stuff he can do off the dribble, the passes he can make. So I'm really sneakily excited for Caris and Duncan Robinson. I've got a bit of a hot take about the Pistons in general I'm going to hold on to, but I'm going to wait until I see the actual schedule for the upcoming season. But I think as fans, all I'll say is I think as fans we're used to kind of slow starts to the season. I'm starting to just get this feeling and vibe with our squad that we are not going to be experiencing a slow below 500 start. But I'll wait until we see the schedule before I make any more claims. But moving on, some interesting comments here on Ron Holland. Quote from the executive. "Oh man, yes. Be honest with me. Did you see a better player out there than Ron?" if you say you did, you better be ready for an argument. Ron was so good. We said it when we drafted him that we felt like we got one of the best players in the draft. As a rookie, he just got better every single day. Now he's going to break out and have an incredible season. The jumper and the free throw shooting, those are real. Big, big, big year coming for Ron. And I love this. I just love hearing like people within the organization just get excited about their own players, even if we don't know who this executive is. Like, it's still just really cool. The main piece I really liked here was the citing of rookie as a rookie, Ron just getting better every single day, because I couldn't agree more. Like, even if you go all the way back to Ron's first summer league, he got better every single game. The points per game, the field goal percentage per game, he got more efficient. His drives were better. He was more in control. And I felt like that just replicated its way throughout the whole season. Not saying the points got better per se, because his role fluctuated at times, but like, I just feel like he became... It's a bit of a cliche to be like he got better every single day, but Ron was a player I really felt like benefited from being in such a, awesome culture and a defensive-minded team. I feel like he really thrived and just got better every single game. And we saw in this summer league how good he looked and how improved the jumper is. Like, he's still got more to improve upon for sure, but man, Ron Holland, like they said in here, he has potential to be like one of the best players in that draft. He was the number one ranked player, I'm pretty sure, with Matas Buzelis before their like kind of disastrous season with the Ignite, which is now scrapped. So I'm super excited for Ron. Like, I cannot wait to see how he fares in like the real deal with his improved shot and some of the other things he's been working on. But let's get to the final point here. We'll probably spend the most time on this. And this was an update on the extension talks with Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. Obviously, both of them entering year 4 are extension eligible. And this is the quote that the executive had from Detroit. Those guys are key guys for us. We're not the cap space Pistons anymore. We're the playoff Pistons now. If we want to keep being the playoff Pistons, we need to be really smart from here on out. That means finding the right deal for us and our players. But we love the way both Jalen and Jaden have developed. Look, if we have Jaden last year, we win our first playoff series in forever. We believe that 100%. We're hopeful we can get extensions done with both of those guys to keep them in Detroit for a long time. So, a couple of things in here I want to discuss, but the first thing I want to chat about here is what my main takeaway from this is, and my personal opinion, like kind of reading between the lines here, is obviously, and Trajan said as much, like the Pistons want to extend both these guys. There's an investment here. Trajan, I believe, said it when asked about the extension talks all the way back at the end of June before the draft in his pre-draft press conference. So you can go watch that. But the Pistons want to invest in both Ivey and Duren. Just depends at what price. With a price that works for them. And as the executive says here, that means finding the right deal for us and our players. So gone are the days, because of the new salary cap, where teams just offer almost near max extensions without blinking. Because if you have a player that's on a deal that is nowhere near the value of the player and you got multiple years on it, not only does it hurt your cap situation, but it's really hard to move those guys now because of the way the salary cap, the implications and I guess penalties for being in the tax and over the apron, over the second apron. Like, it's so harmful and crippling that you have to be really careful with who you max now and who you give big deals to. And frankly, whilst as a fan, I would extend Jalen and Jaden tomorrow. Like, I can understand why a front office has to check everything off and be so sure that the contract they're offering works for the team and that they negotiate it properly. Because when we look at JD and Jaden Ivey, they've both had 3 different, like, whilst this front office didn't draft them, like, there's just so many factors with these two in particular when they came to the team. Like, they've had 3 different coaches, a different front office drafted them. Like, they've been through one of the worst seasons in franchise history, which all the young players have, but still, like, the context these guys have been in has been difficult. And then in last season, Jaden Ivey, 30 awesome games, starting to really look good with Cade, but then obviously gets his leg broken, which is just shattering, doesn't get any playoff burn. Then Jalen Duren, on the flip side, his first 30 games, like he would say, and he did say it in his own words, was on some soft shit. Like, and then he turned it around and looked pretty good in the playoffs and had an awesome 2025, really. But you can see why, if you want to be devil's advocate, which I think you kind of have to be when you're offering tens of millions of dollars to these players to solidify your core, like, I can see why a front office isn't like, so let's say Jaden Ivey wants $30 million annually for the next 4 years. I can see why, if you look around the league, why they might have reservations doing that and need to really discuss that, because Ivy has like I said, it's not his fault. And I think he's shown amazing flashes. And I love JI. I want him on the team. And I want to see him with K for 50 games. But I can see why they might say, well, Jaden, just because like you're coming off a broken leg, we didn't get to see you in the playoffs. Whilst we believe in you, we need to see it a little bit more. We need to see your fit with Cade. I'm not saying they say this word for word, but like I think you can still have a lot of belief in a player. But if the proof isn't there and the numbers and the results across a huge span, and you're really just going with potential, I can see why you're going to go, well, we do potentially think you're a $30 million player. But right now, we're probably only willing to offer you $25 million per year. And that's the most we can go. But if you want to prove it to us, go out next year in your 4th year, and then we'll let it go to restrict. Like, I can see from both sides. And then I can see why Jaden Black will no, I am a $30 million player. I believe in myself. And do you see what I mean? Like, that's the back and forth. And I don't think it's a personal thing. I think, as they say here, just like they have to find the right deal for them and their player. They have to meet in the middle. And I can see why both players might not be extended at the end of this offseason. And it still might mean they're both Pistons long term. They might just have to go out and prove it. Because you can say the same for Jalen Duren. Like, I saw he was incredible in 2025 and in the playoffs. Like, I thought he was awesome. I thought he grew as a defender. I think Cat's a really tough matchup for him, especially when Stu's out. But I thought JD showed heaps of growth. But I can see why the team would be like, well, we just need to see it a little bit. Like, we believe you can be that guy for 82 games, but go out and show us before we give you 4 years, 120 million, or 4 years, 110 million, or maybe more. Like, so I think, yeah, the team is going to try to get a deal done for both. It certainly sounds like it from this quote. It sounds like it from what Trajan said. It sounds like Trajan is definitely invested in both Duren and Ivy. He spoke a lot about Ivy this offseason and how he feels like even just from the outside, people are forgetting that Ivy's coming back and he can replace a lot of he will replace Dennis Schroeder's role and more. So that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts. I know there's been a lot of stuff about Jaden Ivey and some trade rumors, which they're just going to be around until Ivy signs. I don't get mad about it. I love Jaden Ivey as a player. I have since the Pistons drafted him. I remember I cracked a beer at 10 a.m. here in Australia when they drafted Ivy, and I was so excited when they got him. I'm huge on Ivy, but I can understand. It's just like putting 2 and 2 together. Until he's signed, he's a young player with a high potential. Rival teams are going to be looking to try and trade for him, or are going to be curious about the situation with him in particular, because him and Cade just haven't had a chance to really thrive together due to injury and due to, a disastrous year where they were both healthy. But we don't need to go into that 28-game losing streak season to talk about how bad it truly was for development and all that. But that's going to do it for today's show, guys. As always, appreciate all the love, the comments. Love everyone's viewpoints, whether you agree with me or not. It's super fun. We're going to have more content here daily for as much as I can. I still feel like we're getting some good stuff, so stick with me. If there's any topics you want me to talk about, feel free to drop them in the comments below or DM me on any of our social pages. But appreciate all of you as always. And until next time, go Pistons.